I always thought my job as a private pilot was just sky, turbines, and silence at 40,000 feet. But that flight from Seattle to Dubai, when her voice crackled through the intercom, "I can't ignore this desire, you're driving me crazy," everything changed. My heart pounded like turbulence, the hum of the Gulf Stream turning into a soundtrack for something forbidden. I'm Jake, 32, a queer guy with chronic anxiety from high-stakes aviation, suddenly the center of her world, a ruthless fintech CEO who seemed untouchable on the ground. What if her confession was a hack into my life, one that would break every boundary I'd built? And it wasn't just a whisper. I sat in the cockpit, hands on the controls, her words echoing in my headset like a notification you can't swipe away. The scent of her sandalwood perfume lingered from her last walkthrough, a reminder of those accidental brushes during landings. I froze, staring at the blinking instruments, my mind racing. Is this a mistake? Is she serious? My anxiety spiked. Control in the sky was my strength, but this was a freefall, a flashback hit. Our first meeting in a Seattle hangar. Her, Elizabeth, 45, a Forbes darling with Asian European roots, sizing me up with a look that screamed calculation. "You're reliable, Jake, but don't think that makes you irreplaceable," she said. A red flag, sharp with control. Already, her prying questions about my dating life in our team's Slack hinted at something more than professional interest. NBUT. This was just the start. I didn't know her whisper would spark a chain of digital conflicts, where my mental health and her obsession would clash in a world of AI surveillance. Every message, every touch, was flagged by corporate algorithms. My coworker Matt, jealous of my flights with her, was already whispering to HR about favoritism. In a 2025 world where every bite is tracked, her words could ruin me or set me free. I'm Jake, 32, a private pilot from Seattle, where the sky was my escape from the chaos of life. Flying high-stakes jets for the elite meant battling my anxiety, a constant hum in my chest like a warning light on the dashboard. I'm queer, with Korean-American roots, navigating an industry where every glance feels like a test. Freedom, up there in my choices, in who I am, is my North Star. But Elizabeth, the 45-year-old CEO of a fintech giant, turned that compass upside down. She was a Forbes cover star, all sharp suits and sharper ambition, with an Asian European background that made her a global icon. NWE met a year ago in a Seattle hangar, rain drumming outside. Her sandalwood perfume hit me first, a mix of power and allure, as she shook my hand, her gaze dissecting me like a balance sheet. "You're reliable, Jake, but don't think that makes you irreplaceable," she said, her words a red flag slicing through the air. I brushed it off as her brand of tough leadership. The golden days followed, flights to New York, Tokyo, Dubai, where I felt essential. But her Slack messages, "Who's in your Instagram stories?" or "You're too free for this world of notifications," dripped with jealousy. I laughed it off, but my therapist warned, "Control can hide as care." I ignored it, drunk on the thrill of flying her Gulf Stream, where turbine hum drowned my doubts. Red flags piled up. On the ground, she was ice. "Keep your distance, Jake. You're just a pilot." In the air, her gaze lingered too long in the rearview mirror as I checked instruments. On a Singapore flight, her hand brushed mine passing a tablet, the cockpit silence heavy like a storm brewing. My anxiety whispered, "This is a trap." But I pushed it down. Who was I to question a CEO? Nights in hotel rooms, I stared at my phone's flickering screen. Her messages, "Good job today, Jake," feeling warmer than they should. Was this professional or something more? And after that intercom whisper, I couldn't look at the controls without shaking. "I can't ignore this desire." Her words looped in my head like a metaverse glitch. What if HR's AI filters caught it? My coworker Matt, a Latino pilot with a chip on his shoulder, already side-eyed me, jealous of my assignments. "Her favorite, huh?" he smirked, his words cutting like static. This wasn't just a flight. It was a nosedive into a digital conflict where every move was tracked. And I knew this was only the beginning. After that intercom whisper, every flight felt like a pressure test. We landed in Dubai on June 15, 2025, and in the Burj Al Arab's lobby, her eyes burned brighter than the city's skyline. "You're too weak for this digital world, Jake," she whispered, her hand lingering on mine too long. "Let me make you mine, and no one will know." The toxic phrase hit like turbulence. Control dressed as care. My anxiety flared, heart racing, her sandalwood perfume choking me in the elevator. I nodded, but inside, a loop tightened, a notification from her. Don't reply unless you're ready. The first conflict. Our encrypted Slack messages flagged by corporate AI, blinking red on my screen like a storm warning, NBUT that was just the start. On the next flight to Tokyo, June 22nd, tension climbed. She sat in the cockpit, unheard of, her gaze in the rearview mirror dripping with jealousy. "Your life outside this jet drives me insane," she said, her voice crackling through the headset. "You should be mine alone, no Seattle hookups." Another toxic jab, laced with sarcasm that cut deep. Who was she to police my queer life? The sensory hit was brutal. Intercom static, turbine hum. Her message flashing on my tablet. "Check Slack," or "I'll check you." Matt, my Latino co-pilot, caught our brush during landing, his jealous glare like a digital snapshot. "Her golden boy, huh?" he sneered. HR's already whispering about favoritism. My anxiety exploded. Sleepless nights staring at hotel ceilings, simulating metaverse outcomes. Quit or crash. Inclusivity mattered here. In an industry slow to embrace diversity, her control felt like a system glitch. NTHE peak hit on the return to Seattle, June 28th. A public scene in Narita Airport. She accidentally hugged me in front of Matt and a flight attendant, her perfume mixing with the rain outside. "Don't ignore me, Jake," she whispered, loud enough to be heard. "I know what's best for you in this algorithm-driven world." A third toxic phrase, dripping with dark humor, as if my mental health was her pet project. Humiliation washed over me. Witnesses froze, and Matt later leaked the clip to HR, his envy now a digital weapon. The company's AI flagged our chats. Policy violation. $5,000 fine. I slammed the cockpit door in the hangar, silence ringing like a crash landing. The emotional loop tightened, her notification flickering on my phone, a reminder of my empty Seattle apartment, once a haven, now a void. MBUT, this wasn't the end. Pressure was mounting, and I knew. The next step was a turning point, where I'd either hack this system or let it break me. In a 2025 world where AI tracks every byte, this wasn't just a romance. It was a war for boundaries. The turning point hit in my Seattle apartment on July 5, 2025, after that public scene in Narita. I sat at my desk, staring at a flickering laptop screen, her notifications looping. "Jake, reply, or I'll check you myself." The emotional anchor struck. My empty apartment, once alive with friends, laughter, now echoed loneliness, a digital void. My anxiety peaked. Hands shaking, breath uneven. I recalled my therapist's words. Boundaries aren't weakness. They're your shield in an algorithm's world. That was the trigger. I was no longer her victim, but an agent of change. With a sarcastic smirk, I thought, what if I hack her system like she hacked my life? I fired up a personal AI analyzer, a 2025 tool scanning metadata ethically, no privacy breaches, a digital countermove. In VR goggles, I ran a metaverse simulation, a virtual cockpit where her words echoed, algorithms dissecting her patterns. The sensory overload was intense. Controller vibrations, virtual turbine hum, her perfume reconstructed by AI. The results stunned me. Her messages to me mirrored a history of control over others, jealousy, favoritism, pressure. One file revealed, "You're too sensitive for this world, Jake." A mutated toxic phrase, "I'm doing this for your good, to shield you from chaos." It wasn't love. It was manipulation dressed as care. Inclusivity added depth. Her past targeted diverse employees, exploiting vulnerabilities like my queer identity. In-proof piled up, and an ally emerged. My therapist, a Black woman specializing in tech industry mental health. On July 10th, she said, "This is a power pattern, Jake. Your anxiety is a signal, not a flaw." She urged an ethical approach. Gather facts, no harm, using AI for self-defense. I felt a shift, from a trapped pilot to a hacker of my fate. A flashback to our first flight. Her cold stare now read as a warning, not judgment. Red flag of her status? Not married, but her family was the company, with witnesses like Matt waiting to pounce. HR's warning loomed, policy violation. Blacklist awaits. Intrigue realization broke the loop. In the metaverse, I saw the truth. Surrender meant losing myself. Action meant freedom. With dark humor, I told my therapist, I just hacked my boss without breaking the code. The joy was bittersweet. Empathy flickered for Elizabeth's own anxiety, hidden beneath her power. I was ready for an ethical counterattack, precise as a landing in a storm. NBUT, what came next? HR awaited my response, and her notification blinked. Don't ignore me or you'll regret it. This wasn't the end. It was the start of a boundary war. The counterattack began on July 12, 2025, in a quiet Seattle cafe where the smell of coffee mixed with rain outside, a grounding contrast to turbulent skies. I met Matt, my co-pilot, whose envy once cut like a blade but now offered alliance. I know about her pressure, Jake, he said, his Latino accent carrying weight. Let's do this clean. We compiled evidence. My AI analyzed messages, his hanger camera clips of her touches, all stripped of personal details, just her control pattern. The sensory hit was sharp. My phone vibrated in my pocket as I sent an anonymous HR report via encrypted channel, feeling like a takeoff without storms. You're always the odd one out in this company. Her toxic phrase echoed, mutated in my mind. But now I'm hacking it for good. With a sarcastic grin, I thought. In a 2025 world where algorithms judge, I just became an ethical hacker. NMY moves were calm, like plotting a flight path. First, the HR email. Anonymous report on favoritism and employee pressure violations. I attached sanitized screenshots of her looping messages. You're too weak, let me protect you. No names, just systemic flaws. Inclusivity shone through. I highlighted how her control targeted diverse staff, from my queer identity to Matt's cultural background. Mental health was central. This causes anxiety and burnout, I wrote, channeling therapy. Then, on July 15th, I faced Elizabeth in her penthouse, overlooking Puget Sound, city lights flickering like notifications. I'm out, I said firmly, her perfume lingering but no longer suffocating. Your protection is a cage. She froze, her eyes cracking. Jake, it was just a joke to get close. Another toxic phrase, dripping with irony, as if my anxiety was a game. I didn't budge. Boundaries aren't jokes in a digital world. I left, the door slamming, silence echoing in the hall. NTHE twist came July 18th. HR confirmed an investigation. In a VR metaverse, I simulated the outcome. A virtual office where algorithms predicted her quiet exit, my freedom secured. The emotional loop broke. My empty apartment now felt like a space for growth, not isolation. With dark humor, I told my therapist, I hacked my boss without crashing. The counterattack was ethical. Facts, not revenge, backed by allies and 2025 tools. Empathy flickered. Her vulnerability was real, but no excuse for control. I felt catharsis. From a trapped pilot to an agent, reclaiming dignity in a world where I can be a shield, not a sword. MBUT. Her collapse was coming. Her empire was cracking, and my new flight was ready. This wasn't the end. It was a reset. The collapse came quietly, like a smooth landing in clear skies, no drama, just consequences. On July 20th, 2025, HR announced an investigation. Elizabeth was suspended pending review, her $2 billion fintech empire starting to crack. Shareholders, tipped off by anonymous reports, demanded an audit. Her jealousy and control, masked as care, turned against her. The sensory hit was vivid. My phone's flickering screen showed news alerts. Her Forbes photo now tied to headlines like CEO under fire for toxic culture. The emotional anchor returned. My empty Seattle apartment, once a void, now felt like a sanctuary, relief mixing with empathy. Her vulnerability stemmed from her own anxiety in a world where power was her only shield. But her actions, intercom whispers, touches, toxic phrases like, "You're too sensitive to get my care," undid her. With dark humor, I thought, in a 2025 world where AI doesn't forgive, she got hacked by her own system. And I reclaimed freedom step by step. On July 25th, I quit, but not empty-handed. HR, acknowledging my role, offered a $50,000 severance and a glowing reference. Inclusivity opened doors. My queer identity and diverse team experience landed me a job at a Silicon Valley startup focused on sustainable aviation, with mental health perks like weekly VR therapy sessions. Matt, my ally, called, "You did right, man." His warm Latino accent a reminder of our shared fight in a tough industry. This wasn't betrayal, it was justice. We laughed at the irony. His envy turned into a bridge. My anxiety eased. Nights, now free of notification loops, replaced by calm sleep where turbine hums were just memories. Ethicality was key. No revenge, just balance restored with facts, like an ethical hacker in a digital conflict. NTHE resolution hit August 1st, when Elizabeth messaged, "Jake, I see now. My protection caged us both. No toxicity, just admission." She resigned quietly, focusing on therapy, LinkedIn whispers confirmed. Her collapse was self-inflicted. Jealousy burned her empire, leaving her alone in that penthouse, city lights flickering like unkept promises. I felt catharsis, from a trapped pilot to a free man, boundaries not walls but horizons. With a sarcastic smile, I thought, who'd guess a whisper in the sky would crash an empire? At my new job, I fly ecojets with a diverse crew, queer engineers, Latino pilots, where digital conflicts are handled openly, no shadows. NBUT life kept moving. The epilogue waited, with a question to spark the comments. Now, in September 2025, I'm flying an ecojet over the Pacific, the sky clearer without her shadow. My new job at a Silicon Valley sustainable aviation startup prioritizes inclusivity. A crew of queer engineers, Latino specialists, and Asian designers, where mental health means weekly VR therapy sessions. My phone silent, no more notification loops. I sold my Seattle apartment for a San Francisco loft, where the bay's salty breeze signals freedom, not control. Elizabeth's collapse was quiet. Resignation, therapy, a LinkedIn post about personal growth. No revenge, just lessons. Her jealousy torched her empire, leaving her to rebuild alone, like I did. With a sarcastic smirk, I think, who'd guess a Gulfstream whisper would reset a life in the metaverse? Catharsis hit. I reclaimed dignity, boundaries my superpower in a world where AI can shield, not chain. NTHE takeaways simple. In a 2025 digital conflict era, where power hides as love, boundaries are strength, especially when anxiety screams, "Stop." Inclusivity teaches. Diversity fuels resilience, in teams or souls. Would you hack betrayal in an AI age? Or let algorithms write your story? Share in the comments. Maybe this sparks a new metaverse drama series, where every flight is a shot at a reset.